Every morning, billions of people gather around coffee pots and break room stations, treating their daily dose of chemicals like a magic potion that can manufacture energy and confidence out of thin air. But a cup of coffee does not actually contain energy. A nicotine vape has no peace, and a pill holds no happiness. Look at this diagram of the brain's natural chemical reservoirs. Human neurochemistry operates as a closed-loop system, maintained in biological equilibrium. When a foreign substance enters the bloodstream, it forces those reserves to dump their contents all at once, flooding the system. Every dose acts as a high-interest loan from your biological future. It initiates a transaction that eventually must be paid back in full. Stimulants run on this exact transaction. Chemicals like caffeine, nicotine, cocaine, and meth are consumed by millions to generate artificial speed and sharp focus. Here is how they borrow energy. Foreign molecules block the brain's adenosine fatigue sensors. Simultaneously, the pathway floods with dopamine data points. With stronger stimulants, reabsorption valves lock shut completely, and these pleasure signals pile up into an uncontrolled flood. The psychological peak feels incredible. Your thoughts race, every move feels perfect, and you experience an explosive sense of invincibility and infinite energy. But the high only lasts as long as the fuel holds out. Once the supply burns off, the inevitable crash hits, replacing that euphoria with deep exhaustion, severe irritability, and paranoia. That extreme burst of energy was not generated out of nowhere. It was violently stolen from the brain's future capacity to feel motivated or awake. People turn to a different class of chemicals to loosen up, quiet their thoughts, and force social connection, specifically depressants like alcohol and empathogens like MDMA. A dropping line graph tracks depressants enhancing GABA, slowing the nervous system, while a rising bar chart shows empathogens dumping serotonin. With opioids, this slowing effect hits its extreme limit. Activity drops to zero, inducing a heavy anesthetic calm, simulating total safety. As the chemical fades, the come-down is brutal. The artificial warmth instantly vanishes, replaced by physical agony, severe anxiety, and deep emotional emptiness. Forcing this state rewires the entire system. The brain forgets how to stay calm naturally, trapping the user in a continuous, medicalized cycle of withdrawal. Relying on these artificial surges eventually withers the brain's natural machinery for empathy and calm. This leaves the user dependent on the substance, just to tolerate the presence of others or the pressure of reality. There is a final category of drugs used to dissolve reality altogether: psychedelics and dissociatives, including LSD, psilocybin, and ketamine. These chemicals severely alter perception, either by blocking sensory input messengers like glutamate, or by binding to specific serotonin receptors like 5-HT2A to warp how the brain processes the environment. At the peak, boundaries between the self and the outside world blur. Time loses meaning, and the ego completely dissolves into the surroundings. The come-down from this detached state is highly unpredictable. As reality pieces itself back together, it can leave behind a gentle, reflective calm, or it can trigger a lingering fog of deep confusion and panic. By repeatedly bypassing normal sensory filters to force this state of detachment, these chemicals charge a steep psychological tax. They risk leaving a persistent fog that makes the standard world feel distant, muffled, or hollow. If there is one biological law uniting all of these substances, it is this: every artificial chemical high demands a physiological repayment. When a brain is exhausted from constant chemical floods, it completely shuts down its natural chemical production. This state of severe physiological bankruptcy is what we call true addiction. It is not a failure of willpower. At this stage of tolerance, the drug becomes a requirement for basic function. The chemical that once provided a high is now used strictly to achieve a baseline of normalcy. Psychoactive drugs offer a convincing illusion, but true energy, connection, and peace have to be earned naturally. Relying on chemical shortcuts will slowly dull everything that makes us human.